David, hey, congratulations on your new film, Cheech and Chong's last movie.
Thank you, Gig. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here talking with you.
You know what? I watched the film. I wasn't sure what I was actually watching because I was trying to figure out whether this was a documentary or actually a film, but nonetheless, I found it very educational and entertaining itself.
Great. I hope that was a good thing because that's what we were trying to do is push on the genre a little bit, you know?
You certainly did. So let's ask that obligatory question. How did this film actually came about with you?
I got called to produce a reunion film with Cheech and Chong many years ago, set up at a studio. And when that didn't happen and Tommy went to prison, it kind of grew into the documentary. And I came up as a producer. This is my directorial debut. I had another project I was looking to direct, but it just kind of serendipitously happened. And I said, "Hey, no one's made the definitive Cheech and Chong documentary, and if we're not going to make this reunion film, and no one's made a doc on them, maybe we should do that." So we did.
Well, that is certainly a pathway towards the documentary. So how easy was it to convince the both of them to make a documentary, or was this just simply due they wanted to make a documentary?
I don't know that they like wanted to, but they were beyond reasonable. And of course, I'm kind of the new guy, I hadn't directed anything. Um, and I kind of, uh, put together my ideas and they were in. So in hindsight, it was pretty easy, but it wasn't as though anyone was careless about it. I mean, they wanted to make sure that I had a point of view and uh, um, I at least could present that I knew what I was doing. No one really knew whether or not I was going to pull it off because I had never done it before. I had produced a bunch of movies, but it's a different task.
So stylistically, how did you want to approach this documentary? Because you did use clips, you did use interviews, but you also presented sort of a narrative, scenes in this
Yeah.
film, all in combination.
So I come from making narrative films and wanted to do something that had scope. I felt like the genre, there's so many terrifically made documentaries, but there's also a lot of great stories that aren't greatly told and feel like there's a lot of contrivance, exposition, and part of that is people just sitting for interviews and cutting to archival footage, which is the convention that we know. So the fact that there were two guys, there was a natural conflict, which was a good third act engine. And I had in my back pocket, speaking to how game were they, how hard was it, we started off with, hey, like, let's sit down for interviews. I'm going to acquire the archival, which was the first part of it. Um, Ran into this terrific animator so that when we had parts of the story that we didn't have footage or we didn't have pictures, um, but really the desert was the golden ticket that I think distinguishes it from a conventional doc. And in your opening saying, is it a movie or is it a documentary? And people have been waiting for to see the two guys together again. So if we could do that and feel like you got caught in a 15 or 20-minute Cheech and Chong movie while hearing their wildly empathetic story that is, you know, uh, educational, engaging, and funny, I think maybe there's a shot to do something a little different.
Now, the as part of the opening scenes and scenes throughout the entire movie, tell us the desert road scenes that you actually compiled. How did that actually came about? Where did that idea spark from?
It sparked from wanting to do something with scope And rather than, and knowing that I needed to get them together because I don't know if you're married or if you have any kids or you're brothers and sisters, but if we sat you individually for interviews and then I got you together, there'd be things that you would agree on and things you would maybe disagree on. So we knew, and I knew about the breakup, which, so, there was a natural conflict there that I don't think was ever really truly resolved. So rather than doing this on a soundstage with a couch, I was like, let's do something that's a bit more exciting and expansive and dynamic, and that has scope, and that we could utilize as a mechanism to kind of weave in and out of, along with some of the more conventional aspects of what we usually see in a documentary.
So how much of that was actually scripted and how much was actually improv? Because you were trying to set a certain tone for this film.
It's all unscripted, and I had my own script, but I kind of describe it as I would, poke them with a fork and then run, or light a pack of firecrackers and run. They didn't know what was coming, the majority of the time. Um, uh, I knew, so I built, with the team, um, and the editors and the animator, the archival producer. But when it came to the desert, it was I had a bunch of ideas that kept coming up, and because I had the portrait interviews of them individually, they both wrote a book. I had all the archival to draw from, um, and I learned so much about their what we don't know about from these 30 hours of interviews. I was like, I just think that this is going to be a lot better. But it was that was the hardest part of the movie, was getting the money and shooting the desert. It was hot.
Well, you certainly pulled it off. Can you also talk about the surprise guests along the way on that desert road? How you managed to convince them, or was that easy to convince them to be?
I think there's a lot of goodwill. And when we talk about, I don't want to get into specifics unless you need us to, but anytime there's ever a 50-year union, there's going to be conflict. I mean, it's a family. Cheech reminded me early on, Dave, we're not friends, we're brothers.
Hmm.
So I have an older brother, and you love and fight like brothers do. Um, and when you're in a relationship with anybody for a long period of time, people grow apart, people grow together, and But to, I guess, simply answer your question, I think it speaks volumes that these people came out, but there was zero hesitation. Um, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the guys were game. So if they're game, great. And I had, not heavy convincing, but they just wanted to make sure that I wasn't asking them to show up to waste their time. So that was gratifying because, in so many ways, I got to make the movie, the exact movie that I wanted to make.
Absolutely, and you did do that. And 50 years is a very long time for a relationship between two men, but 50 years of archival footage, including, clips and interviews. Tell us about your research project into that and how you narrowed it down, what to include and what not to include.
Well, it starts with, an amazing, terrific archival producer, Jim McDonnell, and and then of course harassing family and friends to go back to their garage. I don't have anything. It's like, go check again. And getting the call that they found a garbage bag of 16 millimeter film that no one's ever seen, or hey, we've got this 8-minute piece that was cut together that was on one of the magazine shows, but while they were there, Geraldo actually had spent like 3 days with them, so there's 4 hours of footage that no one's seen that we didn't even know. We were just going for the actual show that we knew existed, never thinking that there would be another 4 hours from 1980. So it's a bit of being a kind of a truffle hunter, and uh, uh, and and then when you say, well, how did you narrow it down? It's just this distillation process of what's serving the narrative, um, what's fun, what's honest, uh, and how is it serving the story ultimately.
Did you have to go through any type of restoration process because some of the archival footage or photos might be too old?
Big time. So, we have two companies. Photochem did all the color, that does all the big movies. And a friend of mine, Jim Hardy, at a company called Illuminate, did all the upscaling. So whether it's the 16 millimeter footage or uh, deinterlacing is the process of because of the different formats that people were shooting on in the 80s and the 90s, and it just makes it more theatrically worthy. And so it kind of goes to the car wash first through Illuminate. First, you have the raw native material, and it's either scanned or it's transferred, and then they upscale it, and then it goes to Photochem for color.
Now, you mentioned previously that you brought in an animator to fill in the blanks
Yeah,
into your story. Tell us about that process because one of the things that this being your first documentary, it is already challenging just to make a documentary or
sure
and
is.
and slightly narrative, but now you're also going into the animation world at the same time. So tell us how you pulled this off.
Well, I got turned on to James Blagden, our animator, who had done this short on Doc Ellis, who was a pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, who pitched a no-hitter on acid. It's called uh, uh, Doc Ellis No No, uh, and uh, um, and I was like, well, this is the perfect guy. Now, what do we do? So whether it's the White Psych or hearing a story from Lou, I was like, these are great stories that we don't have any footage. We have no pictures when they first met, no one was walking around with a camera there. So it started to become obvious first with what we didn't already have archival footage for, pictures, or that didn't feel like it was compellingly told just in a first person account by Tommy and Cheech from those interviews. And once we did that, we had the audio and you just cut James loose. We had lots of conversations, we talked about things. You do a paper edit to a certain extent, or an animatic, which is not the full animation, just so that he can kind of um, etch it out. And once we agree conceptually, and I mean, James is a filmmaker in his own right, not just an animator. And um, so he understands shot composition, timing, angles. He's brilliant. So that's does that answer your question?
It certainly does. And one of the things I was just trying to figure out because I know this is a 2 hour long documentary, and it could have easily been a series, but when did you know when to end this film? Because you could have continued on with more of their lives if needed to.
Yeah. Well, I always knew that I wanted to tell the story of Cheech and Chong, which is when they started and when they broke up, right?
Mhm.
And then I just said, we'll have a origin stories so that we kind of have context for where the guys came from, and then a short epilogue over the end credits of kind of a little bit of where are they now, what have they done since. But really, it's about the formation in 1969 to when they broke up, in the mid 80s. So that was the pocket for me, and then um, learning about their upbringing it was just mesmerizing. It was they've got such a both of them individually, and then of course their rocket ship ride to stand up records and film. There was so much material. But speaking to the 2 hours. I was more interested in making like a dense 2 hour film than a film that was 4 hours that feels like it should have been 3 hours,
Hmm.
which there's a lot of, and I also wanted to make a theatrical doc. I wanted it to be able to play in theaters and have scope, which is also not the reason for the desert, but something that was theatrically worthy.
So true. And I was at CinemaCon, and this is one of the films that a lot of people were talking about at that convention. Um,
Oh, that's great.
and when the cameras are off, what are the guys like?
I mean, I think that the documentary shows you. We had a guy that was helping us out with, I don't know if it was, I think it was with titles. And when he watched the movie, he said, I feel like I know them. And that to me was, I took it as a compliment. I mean, they're just like, we're human beings. They're smart and funny and philosophical with, tons of experience, savvy, and characters.
Well said. As audiences have a chance to watch this film as it is available now, what is the one most important take you hope they walk away with?
That there a lot that I lifted the veil on who these guys are, that they are their characters, but they are so much more.
Well said. And let me wrap it up with one last question because I know you have tons of interviews to actually do. And this was kind of bugging me throughout watching the entire movie, but are you the Dave that they're looking for in the middle of the desert?
Dave's not here.
Well said, David.
Am I?
Are you?
Am I?
Are you? That'll be the question that everyone's going to have to answer themselves. But David, thank you very much for speaking to us about Cheech and Chong's last movie. It is a delightful, entertaining movie, and I loved it. There was a lot of things I didn't know about them, and this filled in the blanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.